Alrighty, I want to welcome my guest, Scott Brown from Connie and Dick's Automotive Repair Center, and also I may say this wrong, the Automotive Diagnostics Network.
Yeah, Diagnostic Network. Yep.
Diagnostic, yep. Which I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with, and don't realize that one guy started it all. So,
Yeah.
Scott, it's great to have you with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate the invite.
All right. So today we're talking about the independent side of the business, and how we can better get along and do things to help our industry and better things for our customers. And so we break the show into three segments. Segment one is going to be bridging the gap, customer service and collaboration. Segment two is staying competitive, technology and expertise. And segment three is building a strong team, recruitment and development. And Scott, the first question I wanted to ask you was, how does your approach to customer service differ from dealerships, or what unique value proposition do you offer to win and retain customers? And maybe it's not different
Yeah.
from a dealership.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, it's all about the customer experience, right? So the customer has to have a good experience. Usually, when they're visiting the repair shop, they're already in a negative state, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're experiencing a lot of friction. So we try to reduce the friction as much as possible. Clear and concise communication. We use a lot of digital tools today, to allow scheduling, to communicate through the RO, estimates. We share videos and that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of dealers have been doing the same type thing. But
Mm-hmm.
that whole experience. We're in our shop here. We will be 64 years old next month.
Wow.
Okay. And so we are working on multiple generations of clients here, and some of
Mm-hmm.
them are older, and some of them are not as tech savvy. But we do have a new generation of customers coming in, and they like to
Sure.
communicate on different terms, right? They like to do
Right.
things digitally, and so when they find a shop that they can do all the transactional things that they typically would experience with getting their coffee in the morning or what have you,
Yep.
they appreciate that, and they understand. I think that's kind of a qualifier, right? It makes them go, oh, well, wow, I'm dealing with a place here that's pretty progressive. They understand the technology and the communications and so on. And I think the biggest delta, I have new cars and I've had to go to the service dealer for warranty, and sometimes the experience there, you kind of get lost in the shuffle, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
as from my experience.
Yep.
And you don't have that personal touch, personal communication sometimes, and there may be a number of factors. I mean, sometimes you've got dealerships that just have a ton of staff, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of volume, and sometimes that can overwhelm the staff.
Yeah.
We try to do everything we can to communicate and communicate on a really high level, and understand what the client needs to hear, or how to communicate on their level. You don't want
Sure.
to talk over their heads and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think
Yep.
we're all on the same page. We want to basically reduce that friction and make sure that customer experience is unique and positive.
Yeah, that's great, and I think it's a great point of keeping in mind that customers may get lost in that shuffle, right? That
Hmm.
that that it is really busy, and that busy is normal to a lot of us, but it's not
Sure.
normal to a lot of other people, right? And
Right.
you've got to keep that in mind, and keep your eyes open to find the customer that looks maybe is starting to look a little
Hmm.
discomfortable, uncomfortable
Uh-huh.
with the situation.
Yeah. Right. Yep. I agree.
Excellent. So, Scott, in what ways can independent shops and dealerships collaborate more to provide a more comprehensive um, service experience, service network for customers? I think often we we- we're too like this, right,
Hmm.
at each other
Yeah.
rather than collaborating.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, we work on a lot of customers. A lot of our customers are multi generation,
Hmm.
and they come to us for our experience and knowledge, and there are cases where we have we're taking care of their customers' cars fairly new, still maybe under warranty, and we sometimes find issues with the vehicle that it needs to go back to the dealer. So we would love to be able to have probably a better relationship. I know that we have some pretty good relationships with some of our local dealers. We'll call the service department and explain to them what's going on. We'll give them the VIN. They're very open and saying, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that is an issue. It's leaking. Have your customer contact us. We have at times had some, again, we have some of these really elderly customers. Some of them are not comfortable with going somewhere else. And we have provided concierge service for those clients and end up taking it to the manufacturer. But I think that the collaborative part there, not so much on service, but maybe on parts. A lot of we like to use quality parts, and really a lot of
Yeah.
aftermarket parts are really a challenge sometimes. And we oftentimes are buying. We go right to the OEM.
Hmm.
So what the things that really turn us on the OEM level is being able to access an accurate catalog
Yeah.
system that we can drill its right down through the option codes or the variables to identify
Hmm.
exactly which part it is that we need, and then get the right part numbers. If we can't get that information, then being able to call that dealer parts number and talk to that individual person and make sure that they're getting us the right parts. Because if we have to wait for parts, which is not uncommon, right? We may
Yeah.
have to wait a couple of days or a few, and then we wait, and then that part shows up and it's not correct. Everybody just lost a lot of time and
Yeah.
effort, and now the customer has a negative experience, and we want to do everything in our power to avoid that.
Hmm.
And then sometimes when you're buying a component or a part or what have you, there's other associated parts that you need. I mean, one would
Sure.
be maybe gaskets, maybe a throttle body. Throttle body doesn't always come with a gasket, and sometimes we try to make sure, hey, to make sure that comes with a throttle body gasket. Oh yeah, it always comes with it. Well, then we get the box, and guess what? This one didn't
No
come with it.
gasket.
Yeah, no gasket. So now we're stuck again. So having that bi-directional feedback where, hey,
Yeah.
the solution is mutual, right? We're all trying to do the right thing and get the customer
Yeah.
back on the road. So having that relationship with that dealer to get us on the right page.
Hmm.
Another lacking thing that I see is that we do a lot of electrical, and a lot of these cars have very very small pin terminals that go to these various modules, and actually to
Hmm.
find the right connector or pigtail or repair lead sometimes is very very difficult. And I would really love it if we had like a go to portal or something for that, so we could drill right into that and get the right stuff identified and get the right parts lined up
Yeah.
for our services.
Yeah, and on the on that side of it, that's why a lot of times you go into dealerships and somewhere in a back room there's a pile of wire harnesses hanging around,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because they run into that same issue. Um,
yeah.
I mean the points you just made are great, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to take care of customers, and if you can have a better relationship with the parts department at the dealership's going to make more money too, right? They're
Hmm.
selling more
Yeah.
parts that they normally wouldn't have sold. So
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing there is that the customer experience, it's all about that, right? So if that customer buys that particular manufacturer's car, and
mhm,
they are comfortable bringing it to us, and we continue to provide them with service, and it's a smooth operation, right?
yep,
There isn't any friction there between the manufacturer. That customer is likely going to buy another one of those cars, right?
right,
And
right,
so it just makes a lot of sense. I know some other manufacturers out there that recognize that fact many years ago, and that's why they extended a lot of support back out to the aftermarket because you know that percentage, right? What is the percentage of the fleet out there that gets repaired outside of the dealer? I mean, that number is up
Yeah.
in the 70 percentile
Y-
range, right? So that's a
Yep.
big number. So got
Yep.
to keep those
It's
customers
it's
happy.
right around 70. I was just looking at that stat before we got online, and it
Yeah,
is right up around 70%.
yeah,
And you know, sometimes more than that after the warranty, right? Sometimes that's
hmm,
just people before the warranty expires are still getting service done elsewhere.
right, yeah, exactly.
Um, so Scott, um, how do you navigate that balance between having the relationship with dealerships when you're also competing for customers?
Uh, well, I try to look at it. I try to look at it from the point of we have been focused on, trying to deliver a really outstanding product, uh, service. It's
Hmm.
customer service, and again, being able to service multiple decades of automobiles. I mean, it's not uncommon to see in the shop here maybe 6 or 7 decades of automobiles in
I
here at
love
any
that.
given time, and that is actually pretty challenging to be able
Hmm.
to provide that kind of service and attention. I've got a Nissan Z car back here, '78. That's in really good shape. The customer bought it brand new, and getting parts is difficult, but
Right.
I think there's enough business out there for all of us, and
Yeah.
I really don't see, but I do see a challenge for the shops that are not staying up to date, and
Hmm.
the technology is gonna soon leave them, right? They're
Right.
not going to have that capability. Um, but I think through the relationships with the manufacturers and the aftermarket, through some of the legislation or the threat of legislation out there, as far as being able to service it, we now have access to a lot of the tools and equipment that the manufacturers have in their
Hmm.
service dealers, and that they're mandated to have through that OEM agreement.
Yeah.
Um, and that allows us to, we buy a new transmission from a manufacturer, and we have to go through and do the right programming and calibrate it and make sure that everything is
Sure.
is right, so that thing can be put it back into service and deliver service and qualify also for warranty as well. So those relationships are a lot of them are already there. I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing things in the same mode. Being able to log into resources, get calibration files, download them into the vehicle, communicate with the car, diagnose, and so on. So, but when we do have a problem, usually a tech support problem, there's a tech channel. We're usually not calling the dealer for tech support or anything like that. Mainly,
Yeah.
our interfacing is at the parts level because that's
Yeah.
that's the typical channel for us to communicate to the dealer.
Excellent. All right. And our quote of the week goes along with this segment, which is cooperation is the thorough conviction that nobody can get there unless everybody gets there.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
that is about us all cooperating, and it doesn't help if dealers tear down independent reputations and independents tear down dealer reputations. We're we're
Yeah.
we're hurting each other in a way that a customer ends up trusting none of us.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yep, exactly. We don't we again trying to reduce that friction
Yes,
and if we can all work together and gain customer satisfaction, then hey, everybody wins.
absolutely. All right, moving on to segment two, which is staying competitive with technology and expertise. This segment is brought to you by Parts Edge. Your parts department is the backbone of your dealership and is responsible for nearly half of your total profits, according to NADA. Our system works within your DMS for a hybrid approach that combines the precision of automation with the nuanced decision making of parts experts. And with the rapid advancements in vehicle technology, how do you ensure that your shop stays up to date with diagnostic equipment and repair information? You kind of went over some of it there, but
Yeah, yeah. So I think it begins. Well, it begins with your culture, right? There's culture in your shop, in your environment. We have I consider ourselves as a learning shop. You know, you watch some of these shows on TV, like the medical shows. They've got learning hospitals, right, where doctors, they've
Yep.
got
Yep.
apprentices in there, or interns or whatever. Well, we've got apprentices in here, and I look back on my career back, this over 40 years ago. You know, I went to tech school and came out of tech school, went into the marketplace, and found that there was no mentoring at all. It was like everybody was for themselves, and it was really challenging. But
Me too.
yeah, yeah. So I look at that and I go, there's young. I see these young folks coming into the industry, in the repair industry, and I kind of look now back at my career and see where their career path can go, and realize that each of these are an asset to the business. So
Yeah.
we encourage training, continuous maximize training opportunities, right? So again, I mentioned we work on multiple decades of automobiles, which I think is a pretty strong asset to have that experience.
Yeah.
If you go to work in a dealership, you're going to be working on usually just one car line, maybe a
Yep.
couple car lines, but you get around that one car line all your life, and then maybe if you move on to another car line, it might be challenging. But
Mm-hmm.
back to conquering this, it matters based off of the culture, right? So if you have an environment where you're cultivating a positive attitude, making sure everybody's on the same page, hey, we are professionals, we are working on the most complex device that humans will ever interact with in their lifetime, right? That's a
Right.
quote from John Haywood, who's a professor out of MIT, who's had his engine design ideas or skills into pretty much every platform out there that's on the road today. So, a very, very
Wow.
sharp guy. But these
Yep.
vehicles are complex machines. And so, we need to respect that and be able to provide that professional level service that the car deserves to have. So,
Mm-hmm.
we have to apply ourselves and stay up to date. So we have access to a lot of training opportunities. There's a lot of aftermarket training vendors out there. We take some OEM training. Some of the online systems that we subscribe to, they actually offer online training in there as well.
Great.
And then, today we now have some other opportunities. We have some micro learning apps, like a little
Mm-hmm.
handheld app, and it serves up a couple of questions each day. All of our employees here are encouraged to do it. There's some level of gamification there as well. So,
Yep.
there's like a leaderboard and that kind of stuff. But it helps because it actually spurs dialogue sometimes, and people will go, hey,
Right.
did you know that there's this new ethernet communications going on with the cars, and how are we going to communicate with that, and or this new fuel system, design, or the other thing that we do, of course, you mentioned the Diagnostic Network. That platform has grown to over 30,000 subscribers here in just over 6 years,
Wow.
and there's a lot of activity there. So that's kind of a window into the repair shops across the landscape, and so you get to see some of the things that are happening and some really bizarre problems, and you see some of the problem solving that takes place there, and some of it's taking outside the box thinking, and so that's how you stay in tune with what's going on. You make sure these feeds are crossing your desk,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, so you're staying abreast, and you're increasing your situational awareness around this professional industry that we're all participating in.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you guys are using an app that's doing some of the micro learning that is so big now, right? And that I'm
Oh
sure
yeah,
that's what your younger techs really want, right? They don't want to sit through
yeah.
a 2 hour video and answer 10
Hmm.
questions at the end of it.
Right, right. Yeah, the micro learning is pretty good, and then of course that it's got some pretty good smarts to it because it's using some AI. I mean, you hear all the
Yeah,
AI stuff. Well, they're using some AI in their practical application, looking at what your deficiencies are, what you're good at, and then they focus on bringing you up on your deficiencies, and
excellent.
get you up to speed.
That's excellent. Scott, what strategies are you employing to access manufacturer specific diagnostic tools or information that the dealerships might have more direct access to?
Yeah, so we have I've been well connected in this industry at multiple levels for many many years, and participating actively participating with groups like NASTAF, which is the National Automotive Service Task Force. That is an independent body that was designed to identify gaps in service information and service repairability of vehicles. And we now have really good established relationships between the OEMs and the aftermarket, because they all realize that, hey, these cars do need to get fixed and fixed properly. And so through those relationships and some of the policies that have been developed, we now have these access points into the OEM. So, and some of them are security related. So we get credentialed. We have to qualify for certain things, get the right insurances and all that, so that
Yeah.
we now have access. We can put in these, Mercedes Benz theft related components. We can buy them through the proper channels. We do
Yeah.
positive identification for the customer, and then we're able to just seamlessly repair that so the customer experience is good. And again, multiple decades of automobiles, to provide that support. Some of these older cars, some of the dealers may not want to have those in their,
Right.
per se, right? So some of those they turn into hanger queens because you're waiting for parts, and it's tough. But I think again,
Hmm.
staying abreast to all the different trade associations that are out there, the people you network, the bodies that you network with, all need to help feed that mutual understanding of, hey, we need to make sure that we're staying on the right page and staying abreast of all the upcoming technologies and the technologies that are actually here already.
Right. Right. And so you mentioned again the multiple decades of vehicles and customers that are in there. The
Hmm.
statistic of the week that I pulled out for this week is that the average age of a car on the road today is
Hmm.
12 years old.
Yeah.
The
Well,
oldest that it's been. And I
yeah.
don't think that's changing. I don't think that's going to go the other way. They're just going to get older.
Yeah, and that, you look at that, what is that average, right? Well, you look here, I'm in Southern California here, so that average age, that's a low number. It's actually
Yeah,
higher than that because the vehicles last a lot longer. They don't rust out like they do in your neighborhood, right?
exactly. Yeah, that is true. It always makes me laugh when I travel around the country to do training and things, and I go to
Uh-huh.
Arizona and Southern California, and I'm looking at all these old cars that look brand new driving around. And I'm
Yeah,
like, man, you just
yeah,
don't see that in
yeah,
Massachusetts.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, how do you leverage your agility as an independent shop to adapt to new technologies? What One of the things that I see you doing a lot of videos on is ADIS stuff.
Yes,
And
yeah, yep.
um, it's you've got a big shop there. It's not like you have a
Hmm.
little two bay shop. You do have a big
Right.
shop, but
Yeah.
sometimes within dealer groups and things, it's those are big ships that take a long time to turn, right? So
Hmm. Yeah.
agility to new technologies and new things sometimes takes a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've always been proactive and trying to stay abreast. I look back on when we started working on hybrid vehicles in here. That we're going back, over 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And so most regions, the country, a lot of people never saw a hybrid, right? So we're in, Southern California. I did the same thing with the ADAS stuff. Beginning in 2012, I remember I bought a car that had some. It was a level zero car, but it had some new stuff. It had lane keeping or lane departure warning stuff and collision
Yeah.
avoidance, parking sensors. Backup camera now. That's very common. So I started studying that, and I'm going. You know what? There's probably more of this to come. And of
Hmm.
course, that was totally true. And now I do a lot of training in that department. And what I've found is that we try to market ourselves by basically broadcasting what we do. Right, we're using a lot of channels like social media to show off what we do. I think
Hmm.
that I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of our shop, so try to do some of that stuff and try to boast our presence and our, increase our credibility as to what we do. But what we also find that we're educating customers more and more about these systems because they buy the car. It has all these features. They usually don't educate themselves very well,
No.
and then they don't understand what the service implications are, right? So in
Hmm.
some cases, some of the systems require a recalibration after something happens to the car. Maybe a control arm went bad, or
Yep.
just a wheel alignment, or a suspension component, or what have you. Well, after you do that, it's proper to follow the OEM service information. And a lot of them will basically dictate that, hey, you need to make sure that you do this, and this, and this procedure and put the vehicle back into service. And if we're not
Hmm.
doing that, we're really doing a disservice to the client, but we're also putting ourselves in jeopardy. I mean, we could become liable for
Yeah.
something if a system got received service and didn't get the proper recommended processes applied, and that
Yep.
car happens to get in some kind of a collision or what have you. The
Hmm.
lawyers could easily have a field day with you. So this I'm a tech guy, and I'm driving cars that have all this tech on it,
Yeah.
and I love it. I mean, I am witnessing some stuff today that is just mind blowing, and it's just like, wow, the future is actually here. So,
Yeah.
um, so I love it.
Yeah, it is it is incredible, and you talk about things needing calibration. I have a Bronco, and my windshield cracked about a month ago, and I
Okay.
have not had it replaced yet because I know all the
Hmm.
calibration that has to take place after it gets replaced, and I'm like, I'm just not ready to. I'm not ready to give it up for that amount of time to get a
Sure.
windshield replaced and have the calibrations done.
Yeah. Well, that one there, you're probably okay. Not too bad because the calibration is not too severe on that. It's not a static type calibration. It's
Yep.
going to be a dynamic style. So it's not that big of a load as opposed to say a European car or maybe an Asian vehicle that requires more static type setup and aiming.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, that's good to know. You got one of your techs getting a workout in the background there behind you.
Oh
Doing some
yeah, yeah. That's one of
pull
my
ups.
one of my young apprentices. They're those young guys.
Yeah, those young
Us
guys.
us us old guys. They look at that and go, I don't
No,
want anything to do
no,
with that.
that's a shoulder injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us into segment three, which is building a strong team through recruitment and development. And in a competitive labor market, what unique opportunities or benefits do you offer to attract skilled technicians?
Yeah. So one to attract them, and again, right, really to kind of open up an apprenticeship type environment, which is not really
Yep.
common these days. I participate in some advisory boards for colleges. I am involved at different levels of trade associations. In California, we have the California Automotive Teachers Association. We have
Hmm.
two conferences each year. So I stay engaged there, and I'm always listening to what the pain points are for those with those instructors, and I'm making them aware of, hey, what we're doing here in our shop. So a lot of those instructors say, hey, this would be a good place to work. Talking to their students,
Yep.
and so we try to recruit through that. We offer again, it's a learning environment here and we offer it's a nice culture to work in. Um, it's not a hostile environment. I mean, I've worked in shops that it's every man for themselves, and it's not very appetizing, right? I mean, it
Hmm.
can leave you. Your mental state is pretty important, and so
Yeah.
we try to create a culture that is positive. We pay for vacations, and we pay for sick days, and provide benefits as much as we possibly can.
Hmm.
Um, we provide stipends for certain things. Well, now today, everything's digital, so like our service information. is accessed either on a laptop or a tablet or on their phone. Our service management system, shop management system,
Yeah.
is it's all web based, so they use their phone. So we give them a stipend for their phone because you're using their phone to either take notes, take
Mm.
pictures, take videos, and put them into the
Yeah.
ticket. And so that's another tool, right? And so we
That's
help
great.
supplement them with that. Um, and get them what they need. I mean, diagnostic equipment, any other service equipment, we want to make sure that they're equipped with the tools that they need to properly service the vehicle. I know a lot of shops out there, still relying on that technician to bring all the tools. And in this day and age, that's just not. You look at any competing uh, career out there, right? So you look at telecom, right?
Yeah.
A guy with a good foundational knowledge, has electrical skills and that kind of stuff. He can go to work for telecom, and all he's got to bring to work is his lunchbox, right?
Yeah.
And in
Hmm.
this trade, you're expected to bring a bunch of tools and equipment, and then do a lot
Hmm.
of hard work and
Right.
really not appreciated or not get compensated. So we compensate. We provide a great culture, working environment. We provide a great opportunity to learn and continue to develop your skills and advance your skills so that you can become even more of an asset to the company and to yourself.
That's awesome. That's great to see, and it's a great point because this industry does have a really high bar for the tools that are needed to do the job,
Hmm.
and most places are not providing those tools, right? And
Yeah.
and that's not even counting the amount of money that they need to store those tools in those toolboxes.
Yeah, yeah. Storage is another storage and organization, and then you've got maintenance. A lot of
Yeah.
times now we've got lots of software maintenance. You've got maintenance on interfaces. You've got to keep them
Hmm.
updated. So there's a lot at stake here to make sure that you're able to deliver the service when the challenges arrive.
Yeah. So, how do you approach technician development and career progression in an independent shop setting where the hierarchy might be flatter than a dealership? So, the dealership's got from porter to advisor to assistant service manager, service director, fixed ops director. Like, there's a lot more positions for them to go through. So how are you handling the development of your team?
Yeah, so we don't per se try to move someone from one to another, right? There's no
Hmm.
we don't typically have that stair step, but we want them to achieve this master certification status, right? So that's through ASE certification.
Hmm.
Um, but beyond that, they need to have the capabilities, and also there's other licensing things here. So in California, we have California Bureau of Automotive Repair has a smog program. So we're a smog station, so
Okay.
inspection and maintenance. So we want somebody to continue and achieve that certification so that they can become a test and repairman in that. We now have a new safety program here in California, and that is another certification by the state. So that would be another one that we would say, hey, this is what we would like you to do. We want to support you to reach this goal, and this
Hmm.
is what we're going to do for you. We may take care. We may buy them some tools. We may end up covering some of their tuition for their
Yeah.
current school because these guys are working part time and going to school part time, and provide them some incentives. But we want the we want it to be mutually beneficial, right? So
Yeah.
we want them to appreciate what we're doing for them, and we want to show our appreciation for what they are doing for us. And we really want long term employees. We don't want people turning over all the time because when we bring somebody on board, we want them to be in our system and understand how we do certain things, right?
Yeah.
So our quality control begins at the time that we start intaking the car. So that is the thing. So quality control means that we are all of the things that we need to do to the car are being checked off and followed procedures so that we're doing all that. And so
Hmm.
when we bring somebody in and we train them through all that, we're making a huge investment, and we want them to be here for a long time. And they realize that, and then we want to be able to award them and keep them here and keep them flourishing.
Yeah, and I love what you just said about quality control starts at the intake of the vehicle, right?
Yeah,
That's typically quality control is thought about like before we deliver it back to a customer. We've got to
right.
check off that everything was done. But if you're not starting when they're coming in, then you may miss things.
That's right. Yeah, just the procedure, the systems and processes. My service manager, who's been with us for over a decade, he's very well, very disciplined. He's out of the Marines, and so
Hmm.
he's got a really good mindset. And so we work together. The team all works together, and we're always doing the Kaizen, right? So we're doing the continuous improvement, understanding. Hey, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we try breaking this down this way? And so we're always fine tuning things, and we're not telling people we want you to do this. We're showing you here's the why. This is why we're doing this. This is the deliverable, and
Yeah.
again, it's all about that customer experience because earning that customer's trust on the intake side, we have to maintain that trust. And so the
Yes.
quality control is definitely a huge, huge part of our business.
That's awesome. And so Scott, what kind of innovative training methods or partnerships have you implemented to ensure that your technicians can service those decades of vehicles, and of all different makes and models, and certainly different complexities, right? From some of
Yeah,
the '80s models that you're working on compared to 2024s, it's a world of difference.
yeah. So I fortunately, I've operated at different levels in the industry here, and I have a lot of relationships with different companies out there, whether they're publishers or they're tool type companies, tool and equipment companies, service information companies. And I work with
Yep.
a lot of them, and some of them I work with on product development. I also work with them on training, developing video work around their tools and equipment, or some training on specific diagnostics and understanding how that works. So I try to transfer as much of that knowledge back into the shop here. And of course, when we get certain pieces of equipment, and I discover new, better ways to do certain things, of course, now I'm going to broadcast that across our shop here, and then sometimes I'll broadcast it out a little further than that to my colleagues in the workforce, so that
Yep.
they can realize that there's a potential benefit here for them to discover. Um, and so through those means, I mean, I would say that it's because I'm proactive and I'm keeping my fingers into all these different
Mhm.
channels that I'm making sure that we're completely exposed to all of those things, and bringing those inside the workshop and making sure that everybody stays abreast of the new technology. All this ADAS stuff. It was about 6.5 years ago. I got approached by a company that wanted to sell equipment, and they knew that they were going to be selling equipment, but they were afraid that their clients were not going to be up to speed and being able
Mm.
to leverage that equipment. So they asked me if I would be willing to stand up training here, and we reached an agreement. And I worked with them to bring a bunch of equipment in here that we use all the time,
Hmm.
and we conduct trainings in here. And we've done dozens of trainings, usually on the weekends. Um, and our staff will also attend, and it's hands on, and we're
Yeah.
learning all the technology, but we're also learning how to practically apply it and stay up to date. And then it also helps even the service advisors up in the front. When they get
Hmm.
exposed to some of that stuff, they understand, wow, there's a lot going on here. It earns a higher level of respect for the vehicle. So now when they're communicating with the clients, they're doing it at a higher level and
Yeah.
being able to keep those customers informed.
Yeah, that's great, and that's such a good service that you're doing for the industry because there's only going to be more and more of those systems coming out, and there's there's such adjustments and preciseness to those working properly. And it's great that you're out there providing trainings that I saw one of them, one of that you were recording a couple of weeks ago. And it's just such a great service. Scott, this has been a great discussion. Really appreciate you taking some time to be with us, and we can continue to build the relationship between independents and dealerships rather than being at each other.
Of course, yeah, I'm all for that. Well, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you inviting me on to the show, and hopefully, I was able to share some context with you and your viewers.
Absolutely, it was a great discussion. Thank you.